on this side. Well, Megan, are you going to make the full screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so as Megan said, this is our session about Edge Animate, and it's one of the first sessions from Adobe Tech Live, except those that we had, which were sort of replays of Create the Web Tour. But this one is, I guess, one of the sort of a typical session that you can expect in the future on Adobe Tech Live. So it will be sort of an hour long or something around that, webinars where you'll be able to learn new stuff. And hopefully it will be really valuable for you. Okay, so let's start with my presentation quickly. There we go. So Edge Animate. So it will be, for those of you that actually attended Create the Web tour and online sessions, it will be sort of an extended version of what I did previously. So I'll use similar demos that I did before, although I have much more time now, so I can go in more depth and you can learn more from that. Okay, so mentioning again, my name is Piotr Walczyszyn. I'm from Poland, and you can find me on my blog, Out of Me, also on Twitter. I'm Adobe Developer Evangelist. And actually, the presentation that you see here was created, and I created it with Edge Animate. So this nice waving hand was an animation done in Edge Animate. And please don't ask me to go back slide back because I didn't implement that yet. But hopefully in the next releases of my presentation, I'll have this feature. All right. So question, how do you create web animation these days? Well, some would say you may want to use Flash. Well, it's really perfect and it still works great. But for some reason, I don't know why, it doesn't work on certain devices. So we think right now the way to go with Edge animations, or web animations, I mean, is to use HTML5, CSS3, and JavaScript. But it has its pros and cons, because if you look at this example here, to make a button like this, or an animation of a button like this with a simple rounded corners rectangle that just, over the hover effect sort of spins around, and scales down, it takes that much code to do it. And this code, it's not very sophisticated, but it can be annoying to write that much code to do simple stuff like this. And you can imagine if you want to do something much more complex, then this would completely, it could be really, really difficult to do some complex animations. And also, remembering all the prefixes for all the browsers and all that stuff, it may not be that easy for everyone that wants to do animations. So that's why Adobe came up with an idea to create a completely new tool that will allow you to build HTML animations, but in a visual way, so you don't have to actually code that much or do any of that stuff that you saw in previous slide. Actually, you can do everything with sort of WYSIWYG, so what you see, what you get, type of editing. All right, so I don't want to bore you with slides anymore. Let me show you some couple of examples that I have running in my browser right now here. And then further on, we'll jump in actually into the tool itself, and then we'll start building some nice and cool animations. All right, so let me start with this. The evidence board is, I think, from the Breaking Bad TV series. So it was built by my fellow evangelist Lee Brimlow, which you may probably know. And it's a nice example. It's a simple animation, so you can, like on this evidence board, you can click on different personas here, and it will slide in, sort of zoom in. You can double click on each element, gives you some more details. It's a simple stuff here, as you can see, but the cool thing about this example is that it's actually integrated with some third-party JavaScript libraries to have this nice zoom-in effect, which you could probably do as well with, of course, Animate itself. But it's nice to know that Animate works really smoothly also with some external libraries, so it's not locked. You're not locked into one sort of a framework there. So if we have time at the end, I'll actually show you, and it's using TwinMax, actually a JavaScript library. So I'll show you at the end maybe how it's built and how it works. Let's move on. So this one is sort of a carousel. So you can, well, everything what you see here is, of course, HTML, and it's all nicely animated, as you can see. So we can go to like a next view of the carousel, and we have this nice animation. Again, here we have some different, products of your, let's say, store, and with the hover effect here, we can nicely slide down and see some details. And of course, there's some more. So it's really nice, and you can imagine what you can build, like advertisements or like carousels or all kinds of animations that previously maybe was reserved for Flash. Now it's pure HTML and some JavaScript and CSS. All right, so let's go further on. So this one is a simple game. So it's a game where you have to catch the birds. And it's a simple stuff, as you can see, but what I like about it is that it's a responsive design. You can see if I like scale down, it nicely scales down the whole stage of my game or whatever on my browser. So it's a nice example also what you can achieve with Edge, and it's all done in that tool. All right, next one is an example of a sort of a data-centric application. So you can see the mobile OS market share per different regions. So if I clicked on the mobile market on the North America, you can see some data for the browser market share for different devices, and you could see that it was nicely animated, this chart on the left-hand side here, although this data probably is a bit outdated. But this can give you an idea that you can actually build also applications that can connect to some data-centric or data sources and load it using, let's say, Ajax or REST services, and display this data in a nice visual way, as you can see, like on this example here. And one of the last ones is examples here is, again, sort of a game where you have to pop the balloons. So those balloons just, sort of go up, and you have to, make time to, to catch those or pop those. So it's also another nice example of nice visualization, nice animation that you can then do with Edge Animate. All right, and the last one from the demos part is actually something I built, sort of a teaser for some of my previous also sessions around Animate. So this is something I want to do tonight with you, showing you step by step how to create animation like this, where you have, sort of a snowboarder jumping on a box, sliding down the rail, and so on. Because where I'm at right now in Poland, we have like half a meter of snow outside now, so I thought it's very up to date. Let's say all the winter sports and stuff like that. All right, so well, let's go and see how we can build that. Yeah. Now, before I start creating that example from scratch, I have, of course, now you can see I have Animate already running. I want to start and show you that it's not, with Animate, you don't have to start from, let's say, scratch from an empty stage where you can animate things, but you can actually also animate your existing HTML content. And before tonight's session, what I did, I actually went to Edge Animate's own website, and I just saved it to my local hard drive from my browser. And what I did, I just opened it previously, so I have it actually here. So if you go to Edge Animate's page on the html.adobe.com, you will see a page like this, and basically it's just imported. Open it directly from Animate. Nothing else had to be done. Now, if you can see here, in the Elements panel in the upper right corner, it shows me the whole DOM structure of my loaded content. It's simple here. But now, if I want to start animating my already existing website, it's as easy as, let's say, having it locally on your drive, of course, and start selecting new items that you want to start navigating, sorry, animating. So let's say I want this this picture here to slide somewhere to the right, or maybe to the right and bottom. So what I do here, and you'll understand in a few minutes if you don't know Edge yet, is that there's this pin tool. I can maybe select something and make it over 1 second and start animating it. So I want to make it go over here. And I can do the same thing with this guy here and maybe go here. All right, so now if I run it in a browser, you can see it just runs my my browser, and already existing content was just animated just like that. And all the necessary libraries and scripts were added to the head of my HTML page. All right, so that's one of the options. So please have it in mind that it's not limited to starting a new stuff or designing your new stuff. All right, now let's create then new composition or new animation. So I just created a new one. Oh, before I do that, sorry, I want to mention a couple of other things. So before I go and create new one, one more thing here is that when you launch for the first time Edge Animate, you have a built-in series of tutorials, and you can see those here. So if you go step by step through those tutorials, you'll be able to learn what I'm actually showing you also tonight. So it's very, very easy and easy to start learning actually animate. All right, so let's then go ahead and create new animation. So the first thing here is that it creates me an empty stage where I can start putting either some primitive shapes like rectangle, rounded rectangle, some ellipses, some text, and start modifying those with the properties panel that is on the left here. So before we start using those, let's import some external assets. So if I go to assets, I have already prepared some of the SVG files for my snowboarder demo, but you're not. I use SVG so it can nicely scale, but actually you're not limited, of course, to SVG because it also supports PNG, GIF, JPEG, and SVG again. So I select all those, and it imports those into my assets library. So from that panel here, I can start dragging and dropping my assets into the stage. So let's start with the mountains view, which you have seen on my demo, on my blog. And so let's drop it in the top left corner over there. And now we want to add a little bit motion to that. So we want to start sliding those mountains from right to the left over some period of time. So how do we do that? So in order to do this, it's very good to start using this pin tool. And so the pin tool works this way that you can, first of all, you turn it on either by double-clicking on the playhead or clicking this button or pressing a P button on your keyboard. So now if I do it this way, I can maybe select a range of 4 seconds. So that's how long will be my whole animation. And now I want to move my mountains from right to the left. So the way it works, I select those 4 seconds, and within those 4 seconds, Animate will actually create all the necessary transition and keyframes for me in order to move it from right to left. And what I will do, I'll just hold the Shift key so it doesn't move vertically, it just moves horizontally when I slide my mouse. And I just move it here. There we go. So I created 4 seconds of animation of my sort of a landscape. So if I run it now in the browser, Command or Control Enter, you can see I just made this animation of the mountains. I can also test my animation directly in Animate. So if I just press the space bar, you can see that it has moved this, made this motion effect. Now, we have on that demo there was this box and the rail which the snowboarder was jumping over. So let's try to draw these with the tools that we have built into Animate. So the way to do it, I'll use the rectangle tool for the start, and I can maybe turn off the pin tool right now because I don't want to animate anything. And let's put the box will be over here. Doesn't matter exactly where at this point. Now, inside that box, I want to add some nice text to it. So I can drop some text filled here, so on the edge, let's say. And we can center it directly here. Now, you have the options panel, so you can play around with positioning. You can set some, text properties. It has some sort of a built-in fonts that you can that are available by default in the browser. But if you want to use, let's say, Edge web fonts or any other web fonts, like Typekit web fonts, you can also do it directly from Edge Animate. So the way to go, I have actually prepared myself for that. So if you want to use Edge Animate web fonts, which are free to use, you can go in here to that website. I picked Lobster font, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. You can copy that script and go to Fonts panel and paste that embed code here. And we have to also copy the font family fallback list. So copy that and paste it here. So it adds this font to our animation. Now, if I want to change what I have, the text field selected, I will have this font on my list now. So I can change. Well, it's a little bit too, come on. Let's make it on the edge. Something. Come on. I think I have to make it a bit bigger. What did I break? All right, let's see one more time. Let's add text somewhere in the center on the edge. On the edge. Oh, nice. I never seen the effect like this. I think something is wrong with the... oh, I see. Lobster. Something is messed up today with the fonts, I guess. So let's give it a try one more time. Oh, this is the font I wanted to use. Let's give this guy one more chance then. All right. There we go. Save. Oh, okay, thank you. Now it's working. All right, so let's put it somewhere in the middle of the box. And now we want actually the box, so the text to be part of the rectangle div. So we can, with the elements panel, you can, first of all, play around with the Z order of your elements, of your stage elements, or also nest or unnest the elements. So I can go in and drag and drop into the rectangle my text. So now if I move the rectangle, it's one element actually, with embedded text inside. Okay, so one more thing I want to add to my box is to give it some sort of an effect, a skew effect. So you can go into the transform tool or use a keyboard button, and it gives you ability to transform visually, although you could do the same thing from the properties panel on the left-hand side here, but you can visually, let's say, maybe give it a little bit of a skew here, like that. All right. So that's our box. Now let's add a rail to our box so the guy can slide down the rail. So let's do it like this. The rail will be just sort of a pipe like that, but we'll again use a transformation tool. And now I'll change the origin transformation point to be at the start of the rail here. And now if I use rotate, either here or I can use it from this panel here, see? I can rotate it maybe like this. That should be good enough. So I can move it a little bit like that. So it's like one thing. So this is a rail. I can give some names to my elements, so it's easier to read those on the timeline. So rail, this would be box, whatever. And now if I want to nest those elements into a group, so into another div element, well, like in Photoshop or maybe in Illustrator, you would expect it's Command G, and it makes a group out of those. So now it's a single group that shows up here, and you can give it a name. So here, so like a box, rail, whatever name we want to give it. So now we just created this simple element that we want to start also animating now. All right, so how do we do it? So we want to start animating it from maybe like something like half a second. And of course, we want to have it's somewhere out of the stage at this half a second. Now we want to turn on the pin tool and maybe do the animation of the rail box, whatever obstacle of the snow park, up to 3 seconds. Yeah, 3 seconds would be good enough. So at the 3 seconds mark, we want our box to be completely out of the stage, so on the left-hand side. So now, again, using the Shift key, I'll hold it down so it doesn't move vertically. It will just move horizontally. I can take it out of the stage, and because I had that range selected here, I have now it created for me 2 keyframes and a transition between those two. Maybe I can make it a little bit shorter. So you can see you can also play around, or you can edit your existing animations and transitions directly on the timeline by moving around the keyframes like this. So now if I play it from the beginning, you can see that the box is moving. The box is moving a little bit faster than the mountain, so it gives us also this nice parallax effect. So the user has this impression, that it's like a real movement. All right, so we got the box, we got the whole thing rolling. Now it's, I think, time to add our snowboarder. So let's get the guy out of our assets library, and let's drop him somewhere over here, maybe, well, this is a good place. And we can make the guy a little bit bigger, like this. Again, I use SVG so I can safely, let's say, move around with or play around with the sizes, because I will not lose the quality because it's all vectors. All right, so we have our guy on the stage already. Now we want to start animating him. So we can move our playhead to some point where we want to start animating the guy. So we want to make a jump, so it jumps up and falls down on the box. I think that could be a good point to start our animation. And the first thing I want to do, I want the guy to pick up the nose, so sort of rotate him to the back, and then move him up. So the way to do it, again, use the pin tool. Turn on the pin tool. Select some range you want to do your animation within that period of time here. And now what I want to do, I need to select my snowboarder. There we go. And I want to skew him, rotate him a little bit like this, and maybe push him up a little bit like that. All right, so that will be the very first stage of our animation. So he just raises the nose of the snowboard, let's say. And now I can move my my selection maybe from here and make it a little bit longer up to here, and take the guy up way above the box. So now if we go back, you can see it's going up over the box, and maybe somewhere from here I can actually make the guy fall down back on the box. So I can take him down like this over that selected period of time. So let's see how it looks. Looks pretty good. And now that last phase of his jump, we could maybe add some easing effects, so the user will have the impression that it sort of bounces on that box. So if I go in here, I have selected my transition that I want to ease, and maybe I want to use ease out, so the last phase of the transition. I want to add bounce effect. You can see there is a lot of built-in effects, and it shows you also nice panel what that will basically do to your animation. So you can see that there's this sort of a little bit of a bouncing. Well, it's a very short period of time, but well, you can feel it. Right, you can see the guy actually is now flying. All right, so let's go further, and let's make the guy slide down the rail. Okay, so how do we do it? So maybe starting from somewhere over here, we can double-click here, turn on the transition, and to some point like here, we want to take the guy down like this. And now, if we see how it works, well, oh, I didn't turn off my easing. So it remembers your last setting of the easing, so you can see it's trying to bounce over that rail. So I have to go back and revert to linear in this case, because in this case we want this effect to be linear, so it slides nicely over the rail. And maybe at the very end here, I could add something like make the guy go back like this, and make the rotation 0, and take the guy a little bit down like this. All right, so I think we are pretty good. There we go. Slides and goes further on. All right, so we did that. Now, let's say we want to start our animation with some user interaction. So what we've seen so far, we will automatically start playing, and it will just play like this. So the first step we want to do, I want to add a button on my stage where when the user clicks, it actually starts playing the animation. And also the next thing I'll do, I'll loop the animation. So when it gets to the end, it will start rolling from the beginning. All right. So one of the ways to do something like adding a button on the stage that will actually initiate it is actually, well, there are a couple of ways probably to do it, but I find this really okay. So I found this really helpful, and I think it can also show you a couple of other features. So so I moved the whole transition, or whole animation, to start actually from some point of my timeline. Doesn't really matter what milliseconds these are. And at this point, I can add something called label. So here we go. We can add a label, and we can give this label some values, so like the name, start. So this will be actually our start. And here at the very start of our animation, of our timeline here, I want to add something called trigger. A trigger, you can put triggers on your timeline on a specific millisecond of the whole animation. So if I click here, it will pop me up a panel where I have option to add some triggers, and it's a trigger at 0 millisecond. And at this point, I want to stop my animation because I want to control it through some user interaction. So here I would just put stop. All right? That's one of the ways. Well, I could actually make the stage not autoplay, but I just want to show you a trigger. So for those of you that already spotted that, well, I'll show you further on what autoplay does actually. So let's stick with that here. So when I now launch it, you'll see the guy just standing on the first frame actually of our animation. So now what I want to do, I want to add a button to my stage. When the user clicks it, it will jump to my label, which is start here. So let's maybe use this rounded rectangle tool here, and let's drop it here. Maybe we can add some dashing to it. Maybe we can make those dash a little bit bigger. Oh, sorry, I don't want to do that. I want to turn off the background and maybe just add some text into it so the user knows what to do. All right, so we got the start, and we can make it in the center, of course, and let's again group it. So it will be our start button. All right, we got that here. Now, how do we add some interaction to our button group? Well, I have it selected here on timeline, and I can click here on the left-hand side of my selected element, and it pops up again a script panel where I can use some predefined events that can occur on the level of your element. So you can click, double-click, mouse over, mouse down, so you can imagine all kinds of things. Also, it supports touch gestures, so touch, start, move, and so on. So click will be good at this point. And I want to play from, so here on the right-hand side, I want to play from, and so this is, so that action that we're now editing is actually wrapped into a function that gives us as a reference a symbol, and well, it's now if we just play our symbol from here, so we can go to label start. All right, so let's see if we start. I clicked it, and it started the symbol. So actually my stage. All right, so what do we do next? Well, you could see that actually it doesn't have the nice cursor. So if I want to play around with the start button here and change the cursor, so I can go into the properties panel again and select some of the predefined cursors, and I can use a pointer. So that would be, from the UX perspective, the user will know that it's a clickable element. Now, one more thing, I want the button to disappear when we get to that start point here. So at this label, I can right-click on my start button, and I can add a keyframe of a display. So at this keyframe, I want to hide. I can turn it off directly from here. So if I click, it will hide my button. So you see, if I go after it, it will go out. So there we go. We started that, and it's rolling. All right. Few more things. So this was, okay, element level actions. You saw triggers. Now, how do we loop the whole whole animation? So, well, one of the things I could maybe go to till the very end, add a trigger here to start playing from the start. But the other way I want to show you to do it is that you can actually create also actions on the timeline level, and there are a couple of events of the timeline itself. So the available events on the timeline level is on update. Well, it's this event is triggered with every tick of your animation. So you have to be very careful if you're putting any, JavaScript code there. It cannot be very intensive because, it can really slow down your animation. You can also listen for like play when your animation starts playing, or your timeline starts playing, when it stops, or when it goes till the very end, so when it's complete. And that's what I'm going to use here. And I want to start playing from again, and of course start. Okay, I need to save my work. So if I go here, let's see if that works. So at some point it should, yeah, you see it just looped it, and you'll be seeing the whole thing like this. All right. That was one thing. Now, so you saw the actions on the timeline level, you saw actions on the element level, you saw labels and triggers. And one last thing, let's say on the stage level. So I have my stage selected here. I have a couple of other events that I can listen to on the stage level. And let's say I want to listen to a key down event. So when the user presses the space bar, it will stop the animation, and if it presses the again, it will resume. So by default, if you use key down, it pops up you a snippet of code that has handling for which key was actually pressed. So in case it's actually using space, so good for us. And now I can make some conditional statement over here. If my symbol and in this case it's stage, and we'll get to symbols in few minutes actually. What are those and how they work? So if my symbol is playing, so there's a very nice API actually for Edge Animate, or JavaScript API that you can use. And if you want to learn more about API of Edge Animate, you go to Help and use this Edge Animate documentation here. So everything is documented here pretty well. All right, let me go back. Sorry, I was over here. So it's playing. Then I want my symbol to stop playing. Else, I want my symbol to play from wherever it was left. So from here. So like this. All right. So now if I launch it, and what I actually did, I pressed the space bar so it started playing, and now you can see I can pause and resume just by pressing a space bar anywhere in my animation. I hope the animations are smooth on your side because, well, there can be, overconnect, there can be lag, but on my side, the whole animation is really, really smooth. Okay. Now, we did that, and one more thing now we want to see how do you use something called symbols? So basically, symbols are reusable components that you can define in Animate. And those components, first of all, you can export to other projects, so you can share those components among other projects. And also symbols, they have their own timeline with which can be animated separately from your main timeline that you're seeing here. So in order to create some symbols, let's imagine we want to add something like a snowstorm. So for a snowstorm, we need some snowflakes. So we can, from the assets panel, we can drag and drop some snowflakes. So it's again some SVG. Now we can animate it. So let's add a pin tool here. Let's animate it over that period of time, and let's get this snowflake somewhere over here in that period of time. So you can see it just the snowflake is falling, and at the end of this snowflake falling, we want it to disappear, because now if we just played it, well, it stays on the stage, so we want it to disappear. So how do we do it? Well, you can, on the snowflake, we can right-click, add a keyframe, display keyframe, and again, turn it off. So for the rest of our timeline, it will be gone from the stage. Now, all right, that's cool, but this is just one snowflake. How do we make a snowstorm? Well, there are a couple of ways to do it. One of the ways, you could actually select the whole snowflake animation, Command C, so copy it, Command V, so like paste it all like this, and I just pasted so it created another instance of my snowflake on the stage, and just copied all the settings and all the properties. So you can see that those two snowflakes are one after another. So let's see how it goes. There we go. Okay. But if I wanted to do a snowstorm, my timeline would be like huge, because I would need to put like hundreds of those snowflakes there. So I don't think like copying and pasting is the right way to go. So I can delete that second one and take the first one I created, right-click on it, and I can convert it to symbol. So I don't want this symbol to be auto-playing. I want to control when my symbol starts playing, actually, its own animation. And let's give it a name, snowflake, like this. All right, so it has created an instance of the snowflake symbol, and you can see our symbol here gets into a symbols list. And what you can do, as I mentioned already, you can share the symbols between different Animate projects. And so I can like import symbol or I can export symbol as well. So it creates this symbol file which could be exported to a file system and imported to another project. All right, so that was one way. So the symbol is here. Now, if I want to edit the symbol, I can double-click on the symbol itself, and it drills down into a symbol editor. And now you can see it has its own timeline, so I can play just the timeline for that symbol. And well, it doesn't, I'm not sure if you're seeing it correctly, but you know, it started animating quite late. It doesn't make sense in this case because it was during the it was created based on the main timeline, so it was actually delayed over a few seconds from the start of the animation. But in this case, if it's a symbol, well, it doesn't make sense because I can control based directly in the timeline where it starts. And one more thing, I can edit it directly from here. So maybe I wanted the snowflake to fall a bit slower, so it's more natural move like this. So that should be fine. Maybe a few more milliseconds would be as well. Well, come on. Let's grab just those last keyframes and just extend it a little bit like this. So if I play it, it falls like this. All right. So if I go back to my stage, you can see I have my snowflake, and I can select maybe some point of my time frame where I want my snowflake to start falling. And here I can play from here, wherever my playhead was. Now I can start dropping my snowflake symbols wherever I want and start playing them at some point I want. And, well, maybe a few more. And maybe somewhere over here, like this. All right, so we have those three, and if I would play it now, you would see that, yeah, they're basically falling at almost at the same time, so I could play around, make them, you know, a little bit more spread it over time. Now, still, you know, I have like 3 snowflakes. If I need hundreds of those, well, what I could do, actually, I could select my snowflakes and, again, convert them into another symbol, which will be a snowstorm. There we go. And, well, I can go into a snowstorm, and I can see that, you know, and into a snowstorm, I can start dropping another snowflakes, and so on, and make them play somewhere, maybe here, like this, and maybe like that, and so on. So you can see that, you know, you can create a hierarchy of symbols which can contain other symbols or other elements, and they all have their own timeline that can be played separately. So this timeline is auto-playing. I want to turn off this the symbol auto-playing also. So if we go in here, let's see how it goes. Oh, I need to turn it on somewhere. So there's a snowstorm here. Maybe let's make it start snowing from here. All right, start. And so on. So now if my animation loops, you know, you can see that it just looped also the snowstorm effect as well. Okay. Now, so that part, you can see that, you know, you already should know how to create symbols, how to add assets, how to manage those elements on your stage. Remember, with the elements panel here, you can, first of all, nest different elements inside each other. Also, you can manage the Z order of your elements as well. So that's sometimes very useful. So if you want to make one element on top of another and so on. Okay, now a couple of other things. So let's switch to another example I want to show you. So that was well, okay, let me stick with this one. I want to share with you how now what do you do? So I created this animation. First of all, I should save it somewhere. So let's create some new folder like this. Give it some name. Save. And now what I can do, first of all, I can publish it. And if I go to my desktop where it was published, EA3 here, I have a publish web, and there you go, my EA3 HTML document. So now if I turn this on, well, you can see it's missing the fonts because web fonts, they won't work from the file system, but you know, your animation just has to be hosted somewhere, either on localhost or has to be hosted on some server, and the web fonts will work. But this is our animation, so let's look into it, what was actually created for us. So I can open it in any editor there. So it has created as this div element that actually contains our stage and the whole animation. And you can have multiple multiple animations like this on your single website. All the necessary content is loaded through the Edge. So Edge Preloader, there's a special preloader. I'll show you that in a second. That preloads everything, all the necessary classes or necessary frameworks automatically for you. And and that's very simple HTML content that was generated. Also, it has generated some JavaScript code that basically defines your animations, defines your custom actions and triggers, and also defines your preloader. And, well, it also contains all the necessary libraries. So there's like jQuery using some library for JSON, and there is a built-in framework of Edge that comes in here. And now, that's after exporting. And I think after exporting, all that is, if you look into it, it's really minified. So it's, well, this one is minified, obviously, but even the your Edge actions, this is all more or less minified like this. But now, if you want to use, because you can, of course, use built-in Animate editors, and one more trick here is the Command E panel here. I can pop up the whole editor, and it's a JavaScript sort of a built-in editor where you can see all your code inside of a single panel. So you can see everywhere where you put it some code, you can navigate through it through here. If you want to add something to some other elements, other symbols, you can also do it from here. So that was Command E panel, very useful sometimes to see all the necessary code. But I just wanted to return back to my project, is that your animation, let's say your actions. So let's open this one. This is a JavaScript file that has all the actions, the custom actions that I created, like play from start, stop, and this is the pause, resume functionality that I created over here. And if you want, you can edit that file. You don't have to use Animate built-in editor tool to edit. You can use it external tool. Just remember not to break the formatting, especially the comments that sort of help the Animate tool to identify each element and where it should flow into the editor itself. So you can, as I said, you can edit that in external tool. Just if you have like auto formatting of your comments or stuff like that, you have to be careful with this one. But basically, you can directly edit that outside of the Animate tool itself. And this is also another file that is that defines all the symbols and symbol definitions. So it contains some sort of a JSON file with a little bit of a JavaScript there as well that defines all the properties that you're animating as well in your project. All right, so that was a little bit deeper. Now, a couple of other options for the publishing. So I just published, but if you go to Publish Settings, So by default, you have a web publishing. You can turn on a couple of things. So like, if you want to host, so if you don't want to host, let's say, jQuery framework, you can actually click this, and it will use a CDN for jQuery framework. It doesn't do that yet for other like Edge Animate framework or stuff like that, but hopefully it will in the future. Also, you can publish the content as static HTML. What it means, like if you define like divs or other elements in your timeline where it's like text inside of it, you can, because, well, let me go back here. If you look into my my animation here, it just contains one div, and the rest is dynamically injected during the animation when it's playing. But if I select that and save and publish again, you could see that it has also included the whole structure of my DOM that I created inside of this. So maybe if you want to make it search engine optimized, so you want it to be indexed or something like that, there's some valuable text that you want to be indexed. That's maybe also something you want to use. A couple of other publishing options is, first of all, you can build animations for Animate deployment, so for the DPS. So this is Adobe product for digital magazines for iPads or Android tablets. So basically, you can create a DPS package which can be included inside of DPS. And also, you can create iBooks and for OS X animations as well, and they can be imported into those. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Now, one more thing on that example, and we'll jump in a second into more sophisticated stuff, so doing like curved paths, animations, and stuff like that. So now, when your animation is loading, you can actually set a preloader. So you can go in here, set Edit on the stage level, insert preloader for clipart. So you can select some predefined preloaders. So maybe let's select this one. You can insert and you'll see. So if it will be, your users will be on some slower network, they will first see this preloader, which is basically some animated GIF file here that just is animating here. Maybe you could probably import your own and drag and drop in here, but this one is good for me. Now, one more thing. Edge Animate works on, first of all, on most of the tablet devices or basically mobile devices. So because they usually have like WebKit engine, which is a modern WebKit engine with the latest versions, but it may not work on all the desktop devices, desktop computers, especially if they have like IE 8 and below. So especially when you're targeting your users and there are like, Internet Explorer users and they don't have IE9 and above, well, they may not, the animations may not work, but there's a solution for that. So basically, well, maybe not a full-blown solution that gives you a full animation capabilities, but you can do some sort of a down-level stage. So let's say I want to have some sort of instead of running the full animation, I want to display to the user that doesn't have the capable device or a capable browser of running this animation. I can take a snapshot or sort of a screenshot of that frame. So like I can capture it. So it just created me this poster here. And now if I go to edit my down-level stage, I can insert my poster. So you can see it just created, that snapshot of a single frame of an animation. And instead of, showing that it will, instead of playing the animation, it will show that snapshot. You could maybe like make it a link so the user can click it and maybe redirect it to some other page out of it. Or that was one option. You can also use those assets, drag and drop some of your assets into the stage here, or put some text that your browser is unsupported on the down-level stage as well. Although here you cannot do any animations, unfortunately. But that's for the older browsers. That's a good enough solution, I believe. Okay, so that was it. Now let me jump into more complex topics. So let's close this one. I found that there's quite a lot of questions people ask around how to make sort of a curved path animations, because the stuff you've seen so far, what I was doing, the animations or the transitions of the properties, they were like basically mostly on the straight paths. And so this even jump of the guy was horizontally, vertically, maybe it could be on the diagonal, like from left button to top button. It can be in different directions, but these were not really curved paths. So now, how do you create something like a curved path in Edge Animate? So I want to show you an example. I call it like bouncing ball. So I create this little ball here, and what I want to do, I want to animate it over this radius, so it's not like a straight animation that goes like this and goes like this, like that, but I want to do it like going over radius and maybe going over another, jumping over to another radius over there. So, well, you have to remember that you can animate most of the properties of your elements on your stage. So you can also animate, as you have seen in the previous example, that you can animate the rotation. But the cool thing about it, you can also change the origin point from which it's animated. So if you go in and turn on the transform tool, it gives you ability to actually modify the origin point of, let's say, of this ball. I wanted to put it, let's say, over here to be there. And now if I rotate, you can see it will rotate it over a curved path. So now it's just enough to start rotating it, let's say from here, from 0, over that path. So how do I do it? Well, one thing to remember is that if you want to have some more rotations done and changing the origin of the transformation, it's good to lock your current positioning of X and Y and also of the origin point. And now I can turn on the pin tool, maybe like this. And yeah, I think also this one as well. And maybe transform it like that over 1 second. There we go. Okay. Now I need to turn off. Now I want it to bounce back and go that way also on a curved path, but with the transformation point not being here, but being here instead on the right-hand side. So the way to do it, well, I need to lock in my left top and transformation point here and just change the transformation point without having the auto transform and the auto keyframes on and move them here. All right. So now if I take that guy there and I take him here, I should be able to see that it nicely animates over 2 curved paths. And we have this nice ball jumping effect. So I've seen this on some occasions. I actually needed that, and I needed that for my, well, one of my animations that I recently posted, as a teaser for this session was this snowboarder guy. Well, there we go. You can see that the snowboarder guy actually is going back and forth. And at the very beginning, actually, it slides from the edge of this hive pipe there. Well, if it refreshes. All right. There you go. So I needed that for this, and I thought that will be worth sharing, because you can do really much more complex stuff than just animating over the straight path. Okay, so last topic for tonight is how to turn your existing, let's say, animations into a responsive or flexible layout. So if we want our animation to nicely scale on, let's say, mobile or smartphone devices up to tablets or out to desktop desktop environment. So, well, I have something prepared. So just simple animation I did today. It's some sort of a banner, if you see. Well, I don't know if it's smooth enough. If you see that, but it's some sort of a banner of tonight's session. Now, it has a fixed size. So the size of the stage is 550 pixels by 458. I don't know why 458, but don't ask me why. It just came out like this. So you can see it's nice when it's static, but if my device was much slower, it was a smartphone, which usually has something like 480 resolution, it may not look good. It would be like cut it in half of here, or the user would have to like pan the website to see the whole thing. So how do I make it nicely scale down or scale up? Actually, because I have much more real estate on my, let's say, tablet or my desktop in this case. Okay, so first thing to do it, now let's say I want to start playing, well, the way to do it, first of all, go to your stage, and there is a setting of your width. And you can change that width to be, instead of being fixed size of 150 pixels, you can change it to be based on percentage. So it will be a flexible layout right now. So it will be, now if I would run it, you'll see it will be it will be a little bit screwed up. There's something that shouldn't be here. But now it nicely scales. Well, it doesn't yet flows nicely, but at least the stage is up to, I think, there was, it should be like this by default. But you can set something like minimum width and also maximum width. So let's say I want to have the maximum width to be 960 pixel, 960, and minimum width of my stage to be 480. So if the resolution of the screen goes above or below that values, it will stop scaling. Well, it's not obligatory. You don't have to set it, but it's sometimes it's easier this way. All right, so we have that, and also we can make the same thing for the height. So now if I play it, you'll see it's completely screwed up. So first of all, this should be out of the stage before it starts transitioning into. The same thing was with the Edge Animate, which should be, logo here, which should be out of the stage again and transform and transition into this left upper corner. So how do I fix that? Okay, so first of all, let's start with maybe with the Animate logo. So if I just select it on my timeline, I can go in, and you can see here there is this use presets for responsive layout. There is this helper thing, because I could modify that as well directly through checking those properties properly. But there are some very useful. So first of all, I want to scale the position. So if I scale the position and I apply, it will change the X and Y axis, or the positioning of my element, to a percentage based. So whatever was right now expressed in pixels, right now it will become expressed in percentages. So it should have now done a pretty good job. So if I go to the very beginning of this, you can see that of this transition of the Animate logo, you can see that Y is over 100%, so it will be out of the stage. So if I even go down, you can see it's now out of the stage, even though the stage is now flexible. So you can see I can actually test, with the stage how how my elements will behave when I modify it. So let's just leave it somewhere here. So now if I play it, you can see that it should animate in. And now it's okay. Well, although I would like it probably, instead of to be anchored to the left-hand side, I want to be anchored to the right-hand side, my animate tool. So if I animate logo, so if I, see if I'm like scaling, it will nicely also, it will show me a little bit more of that logo here. So the way to do it, I can go in here and I can, instead of using the left top anchor, I can change it to the top right. So you can see it and change it to applied. So now it will be 60% from the right-hand side and just about 1% from the top. So that's the ending position of my Edge Animate logo transition. So it's much better positioned. Now, still I need to work on my content, on my title here. So let's go back. Let's go to the title. So first of all, I can see that, if I go maybe like 960, that's the maximum over there. And to the beginning of that, you can see that transition for my label here is not good because first of all, it should be out of the stage at this point, and it's not in good place. So if I go back to 550, this is good where it should be, and now start changing. Let's say it's first of all its positioning to be again, instead of being pixel based, I want it to be percentage based. So it's something like 109% out of the stage, and because it's measured from the left top corner. So if I go in here, it should move in pretty nicely. All right, so let's see how it goes. Okay, now I still have quite a lot of real estate on the right-hand side here, so I could make the box within which my text element is embedded. I could make it a little bit wider, so I could use that space over here. So what I can do, again, maybe if I go back here, I can make this guy, so do the same thing to the width of it. So change it to percentage base. So it will be 56% of its parent container, all right? So it should nicely scale. So if I increase the size of my stage, you can see that also the div element that my title is inside of it, it also nicely scales up. So let's see how it goes in here. All right, so pretty good. So if I now, you can now imagine, on different devices, it will nicely reflow itself to some point. So, you can see that at this 480 pixels, it stops scaling. This is the value that I have set on the stage level. And the same thing if I go over 960 pixels. Now you could take your animation, of course, and make, this is the white border here. This is the color of the body element, of course. So I could make the body maybe the same color of that, or whatever else you wish. But you can see the thing works nicely now. And now this could be embedded inside your web page, and when you have a responsive layout web page, it could also nicely scale. Okay, so I think we just got to the very end of tonight's presentation. So, well, I'll try to now answer any of your questions that you have. And there is, I think, plenty of those if I look at the chat pod. So let me just scroll up. Okay. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, somebody asked, how could you, so the question is, could you demo how to create a slideshow in Edge Animate? Well, there's probably multiple ways of doing it. I can show you how I have done it with my presentation. Let me go back to this screen. Okay, so if we just take this guy and turn out this, and I think I should have it. There we go. So the way I have done it, I actually, so each of my slide is actually a single symbol. So I have, like, let's say you can imagine flash slide. There you go. It's just a single symbol. So for each slide, I created a separate symbol, and those symbols can have their own transitions inside. And the way I have done it, if you look into the stage, I just edit all those symbols into my stage, and all the symbols are basically turned off. The display is off at the beginning. And when I also added the event handler for key down, so it listens for the space bar when it's hit. It plays the next position, so it goes to you could use it like a label, to the next label, or you could jump over to next, like, I don't know, 100 milliseconds, where you would put next slide. So I basically use that JavaScript code that it goes to the next element, and you can see it just, if you look into my timeline, it jumps and it turns off and turns on next slide on it. I believe there could be hundreds of other ways of doing it, but that was easiest when I was actually playing around with Edge Animate at the very beginning when I was preparing for that presentation. But my idea in the future is actually to create some sort of a demo how to create a slideshows like this, and a little bit better way than this was done here. But one of the ways I think the good ones is just create each slide as a separate symbol, and that symbol you could figure out some way of how to strike, maybe like, those symbols, the order could be the order that they're played in by pressing the spacebar, and it goes next and next and next and so on, and it hides the previous one. So it's a little bit more complex, and I don't think we have enough time to explain it right now here. But let me go further. There we go. Where's my mouse here? Okay. Should I build my site in Edge, then export it to Dreamweaver, or should I build in Dreamweaver first and then export to Edge Animate? So I believe you should first start, building with Dreamweaver and, use Edge to start animating your elements of your site. But Edge Animate is strictly an animation tool, so I would really discourage you from using Edge to building your websites. I would rather build those websites in tools like Dreamweaver, and then maybe start animating some elements of it in Animate. All right. Okay, I see that Alan actually answered this question. So then integrate your animation unless you're okay. Let's see what's next. What is the composition ID? How do I affect things? All right, so the composition ID actually, so this is an ID. So if you look into my HTML content that was generated, it's an ID of my, where is my mouse? There we go. So here is the composition ID. And you can create your own composition ID there, but it's basically the ID of your animation. And you could have multiple animations inside of your website, and you could start playing those basically based on, well, this is the way to access those animations from the API that comes in. So also it's visibility hidden, and when it starts playing, it turns on the visibility of that class, which is basically the composition ID. So that's how it works. Okay, let's go further on. Okay, I see. Edge Animate is not intended to be used to build your entire site. Okay, but no, the composition is just the DOM element ID so that the Edge Animate can find where your animation lives in the page. Okay, I see a lot of questions were actually answered, so I should build my animation in. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry for the pointer. I wasn't aware that it's not showing the pointer. But that's the connect issue. Will there be a possibility in future to import PSDs? Well, at this point, well, to be honest, I really don't know what's the timeline or if there is anything like a PSD import in the backlog of the feature request. But I'm sure you can basically export to SVG from Illustrator, and it works pretty well as well. But as I said, I'm not sure there will be something like that. Maybe. But from Illustrator, as I said, you can export to SVG and import it directly into Animate. Exactly, is it useful for us in the production about this? Okay, I don't know. Okay. Recording Edge, you're working in Edge. Okay, I see a lot of answers there. Okay. Love this anime, has a few limitations. Okay, yeah. Well, it's the 1.0 version, and remember this is a free version at this point, and it will stay like this for the 1.0 release. So if you go into Adobe Creative Cloud and sign up for a free subscription, you can download this tool and use it for any purposes, for commercial purposes as well. So, well, it's really worth, and yeah, I think it has some limitations, but for a 1.0 version, it's really great, I think, and it gives you a lot of power, really. Could you make tutorials on how to integrate Edge Animate animations into a Sencha Touch project? And thanks for the great tutorial, by the way. Yeah, thank you as well. Well, that's a good idea. Actually, I could make some tutorial how to, well, embed that into any HTML content or PhoneGap projects as well. So stay tuned. Thanks for some ideas. I'll try to. Sencha Touch is a JavaScript agent and CSS for create HTML. Yeah, so Sencha Touch, yeah, you can. I know what Sencha Touch is, but I basically, in Sencha Touch you can also embed like HTML elements, and that's what gets spit out of Edge Animate is a div element. So I believe it should work directly in Sencha Touch as well if you just embed that there. I'm learning. Okay. iSpazi, sorry, I don't know anything about iSpazi. Well, with Edge Animate, you can create those animations, which I showed you today. They will work both on iPad and Android devices directly in the browser, or maybe in a PhoneGap application if you want to make a native application. This will also work there. Sorry, iSpazi, I have no idea what iSpazi is. All right, see that's. Oh, how can you resize images proportionally? Okay, let me show you that. Well, that's a good question, actually. You could see that. So if I turn off this guy and turn on my flexible layout, and maybe go somewhere over here. Well, over here. So you can see that. Oh, I didn't save it. But basically, this is again SVG, but this image here, let's just change this to, all right, it should work. You can see that it nicely scales my file, because if you want to scale, well, it can be risky with PNG. You can lose some quality, but with SVG, as I said, it's quite safe. So like in this case, this is an SVG element here, and you have to set the width and height to percentage based, and basically, well, and also here is the width and height to 100% side, so the diff element scales, and inside of that diff element where my SVG is embedded, it also scales into it. So that's one of the ways to like proportionally scale, and you can see also it stays all the time more or less in the center, because it's anchored 29, almost 30% to the left, where the width of my image is 40% of the whole of the parent size. So if I would run it again now in my browser, come on, browser, and make it like this, you can see my Adobe Tech Live is adapting to the size of my screen as well. So it's all about the percentage base, and also remember that, come on, there it is. Also the background image size, so you can also set it to percentage base over here. Is there something one should prepare animations for Safari and iOS? No, those animations that you're seeing here, if I just, you can go with your iPad and open up my Out of Me blog and see those animations running there. They should be running smooth and out of the box on iOS. The only thing I did, I just went to Animate, Publish, and whatever was published into my Publish web folder, I just uploaded over FTP and embedded that on my blog in an iframe, actually. Okay, ES seems 20 pixel high and width when it's inserted into Dreamweaver. Yeah, I heard about this one. Actually, sorry, I don't have an answer for that, but please ping me. I can check with the engineering what's it all about, because and how to resolve that. I heard about it that if you directly put it at some 20 pixel height. Another way of embedding, because if you just put it as a div element, that's one of the ways inside of your composition or your website. Another way of doing it is using iframe. And when I use iframes on my blog, it doesn't add up 20 pixel to the top of it. But you can ping me through my blog, and I'll try to figure out some resolution for that. I'm unable to find an Edge Animate download from Creative Cloud side. Is it available as part of the Creative? Well, it is available as part of the. So if you go into creativecloud.com, and there should be. Well, let us check that. I'll show you where it is. So Creative Cloud, and it should be here. And if you click here, and you should have it down here. And you don't have to have the paid and the subscription in order to download it. It should be available for free. All right. Thank you, Alan, for pointing everyone to html@adobe.com. There is really a lot of valuable content out there, a lot of video tutorials as well. So I encourage you to go ahead and look for those. Also on Adobe TV, we have very nice tutorials that cover a lot of those topics which I showed you today. How do I remove unwanted font stacks from the font panel? Just right-click and delete. And there you go. That should work. I hope that that was the question. Well, basically, you can add any content inside of. Well, there's this question: can you add custom video or music player in an animate composition? So basically, what you have out of the box. Oh, sorry, that's the rectangle. Okay, so that's image. All right, so let's say you want to turn that. You can change the type, let's say, for like a text element into address, article. So that's also another thing to point out for different types like this. If you have already existing content, you could add basically it directly from, let's say, external editor. There is no way to like drag and drop a component called a video player or audio player. But if you would edit that inside of another editor, then I don't see a reason why it wouldn't show up here. And you could probably animate it somehow. Yeah. So like I showed you at the very beginning, you could import existing content. If it had like a video player, it would probably show up there. But that's all what you can do there. And at this point, and I know there's a lot of requests as well from the community about creating or like adding an audio track into Animate. Well, this feature is not available yet, but there are some workarounds. So basically, you can load your audio file from JavaScript, which can be triggered. So if you want to make like a nice fancy audio player that uses HTML5, audio playing capabilities, you could use it through JavaScript, and that JavaScript can be, of course, handled by some actions on your time on your animation as well. So by just adding the triggers or adding some actions into some elements that would play, stop, pause, and so on. Oh, there was a question. What was that published? I think it's around what is the difference in the Chrome frame installer prompts? Well, I guess this is, to be honest, I never played with that. But as I understand, it's either one creates an iframe that embeds your animation inside of the Google Chrome frame for IE6, IE7, IE8, and the other one, it just creates an overlay on top of some div element that is there. So it's a good question. Let's see if I save it. Well, I guess it will not show up because out of that it basically detects that inside of a JavaScript, so I won't see any difference here. Yeah. So this is probably some sort of a feature of if somebody has the Google Chrome frame for IE, then there are probably 3 ways at least of embedding content in that Google Chrome, either through no prompt, iframe, or overlay. But sorry, I have no answer to that. Okay. Well, for before basically I wouldn't, using Google Chrome Frame, it's not a safe solution for most of the cases because, users have to be aware and have those Google Chrome Frame installed on their Windows machine. So this is, I think, for limited use, like, if you are targeting it to the limited, I don't know, internal users that have the Google Chrome Frame installed, then this is the way to go. But, for but going for not supported browsers is the way to go is, as I mentioned before, to use the down-level stage where you can either use the snapshot of your animation or basically define your snapshot basically from the available assets out there. Well, I guess when exporting for Muse, does it optimize for IE6, 7, and 8? The way it works, so there is a built-in capability that it detects that it's running on the IE lower than 9, and then it automatically will give you the down-level stage for those devices. So I believe it does detect in this way, or I guess if it's using if you set in your published settings to use the Chrome, come on here, published setting, to use your Google Chrome frame, it will also embed that code that will do that, and it should, I guess, work in Muse. But sorry, I don't have a good answer for that because I'm not a Muse user, at least yet. So if you publish it, it does optimize the file sizes. So so at least it minimizes the JavaScript code that is generated. So that should be pretty good. Also using setting the feature for using the CDN for the frameworks is also a good thing because the at least jQuery framework will load from the CDN, so it not use the thing. And does it optimize images as well? No, well, it doesn't optimize images. You have to take care of optimizing images yourself. Okay, so if there are no more questions, thank you very much. And remember, if you have any questions, you can ping me through my blog, Out of Me, or on Twitter. So I'll try to help you as much as I can, and well, and give it a try because I think it's really powerful tool. Even though it's 1.0 version, it's really nice. Thank you very much, and well, stay tuned for more. And remember, this session is recorded, so it will be posted after, and you can replay your content. And also at the end here, you should see the poll here, so you can answer some questions. Please do. So it gives me some sort of evaluation of my session.
Fantastic. Thanks, Piotr.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you very much, everybody. Please come back to future events and get the word out about Adobe Tech Live. And yeah, send us suggestions for other events and come back. And Piotr, I believe you're going to be doing this one again in a few weeks.
Yeah, I think in 2 weeks, like something around after the first week of February. But I'll repeat the same content. But spread the word to any of your fellow developers, animators, so people can join in and learn about Animate.
And Piotr says it's the same content, but he always has something new.
Yeah, I always modify my sessions because I don't like to do the same topic all over again. so it's good to change something.
Fantastic. So here I'm putting in that is our Twitter tag, and you can find everything, all the Edge Animate, Adobe HTML. This is a good place to go to find out about all the Edge tools and services. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks, Piotr. And I think tomorrow we have an event, sorry, not tomorrow, on Thursday, we have an event on HTML5 storage for those developers out there. Ray Camden's going to be doing that. And we will have the recording, as Piotr said, on the archives part of our site, and we will send out a tweet when that goes out, and we'll send out a post on the Facebook page as well. So like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and get the word out, please. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll keep this open for the 5 minutes, and then we're going to shut down the meeting. And that's about it.
Thank you. Have a good day, night, whatever, wherever you are. Thank you. Yeah, it's getting late.
All right, folks, we're going to shut this down. So thank you very much.